The sign looked smaller than I expected once it was in the ground. I stood at the edge of the yard, pressing the last bit of dirt around the metal stake with my shoe. The whiteboard swung slightly in the breeze. For sale. The house behind it looked exactly the same as it always had. Same gray siding. Same porch railing my father had repainted 3 summers ago. If someone drove past, they wouldn't notice anything unusual. But standing there, I knew how much had already changed. My family wasn't home yet. Their flight from Italy was landing that afternoon. My mother had sent photos all week: cathedrals, crowded plazas, plates of pasta that looked carefully arranged for the camera. In every picture they looked relaxed. Far away from the paperwork sitting in my briefcase, the whole situation had started quietly. At first it was just a letter from the bank addressed to me. I almost ignored it. Over the years my parents had asked me to sign things connected to the house: refinancing forms, insurance updates, minor paperwork they said would simplify taxes. Just routine stuff, my father would say. I trusted him. But the letter wasn't routine. It mentioned a loan balance that didn't make sense. I assumed it was an error. Banks made mistakes all the time. So I called the number listed on the letter and asked someone to walk me through it. That conversation lasted almost 40 minutes. By the end of it, the woman on the phone had stopped using the word error. Instead she said, carefully, that several financial documents tied to the house had been filed under my name over the past 2 years. Loans, equity withdrawals, lines of credit, amounts I had never requested. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, with the phone pressed against my ear, staring at the wall while she explained it. You're listed as the primary borrower on these, she said. That's not possible, I told her. But the paperwork existed. And once I started looking through the documents myself, a pattern began to appear. Some of the signatures were mine. Or at least, something close enough that it could pass quickly across a desk. The bank didn't accuse anyone at first. They simply asked questions. When did I sign these forms? Did I authorize the transfers? Did I recognize the accounts connected to the funds? At first I tried to assume there had been a misunderstanding. Maybe my parents had handled the paperwork and something had been recorded incorrectly. But the deeper the bank looked, the more serious their tone became. Eventually one of their compliance officers said the word directly. Fraud. They explained that if I ignored the issue, I could remain legally responsible for every dollar tied to those loans. That was the moment the situation stopped feeling like a family misunderstanding. My parents were already in Italy when the investigation began. The trip had been planned for months. For a while I considered waiting until they came back before doing anything. But every day the bank sent more questions. Eventually they asked whether I would cooperate with their fraud investigation team. I said yes. Untangling everything took weeks. The house itself had been used as collateral more than once. Selling it became the simplest way to stabilize the situation before things escalated further. Which is how the sign ended up in the yard. Late that afternoon a car pulled into the driveway. My parents' SUV. My father stepped out first. My mother followed, still wearing the light jacket she'd probably used during their flight. For a moment, neither of them noticed the sign. Then my father turned toward the yard. He froze. "What is that?" he said. I stayed where I was. He walked closer, reading the words again as if they might rearrange themselves. "What did you do?" he asked. I didn't answer immediately. My mother looked from the sign to me, confusion turning slowly into alarm. "We were gone 2 weeks," she said. "What happened?" My father's voice rose suddenly. "What did you do, you traitor?" The word hung there between us. Behind him the house looked calm and ordinary. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small set of keys. They weren't the keys to this house. They were for a smaller place across town. Nothing impressive. Just something I could afford without signing anything I didn't understand. "I bought my own place," I said. My father stared at the keys like they were proof of something terrible. You sold this house, he demanded. The bank required it, I said. That made him stop. For the first time, uncertainty appeared on his face. What are you talking about? I opened my briefcase and pulled out a thin folder. The bank's investigation team had been very organized. Every document was labeled clearly: loan records, signature comparisons, transaction timelines. They found financial activity tied to the property, I said carefully. My mother stepped closer. What kind of activity? I met my father's eyes. The bank's fraud investigators want to talk to you. Silence fell across the yard. My father looked at the folder in my hands but didn't take it. You went to the bank, he said. Yes. You should have come to me first. I thought about that for a moment. Maybe he believed that. Maybe he believed I would have stayed quiet if we'd talked about it privately. But by the time I understood what had happened, silence wasn't really an option anymore. The investigation already started, I said. My mother lowered herself slowly onto the porch steps. My father looked from the sign to the house to the folder again. For the first time since they arrived, he didn't seem angry. Just unsettled. Behind us, for sale. Sign creaked slightly in the wind. I slipped the new house keys back into my pocket. Whatever happened next would take time. But for the first time in months, I felt certain about at least one thing. The life waiting for me across town wasn't complicated, and it didn't require signing anything I hadn't read.